He's the man, he's the myth, he's the legend, he's the scientist with all the answers and all the questions. It's time for another episode of Alex's Science Corner.
Oh, thank you. Oh, please, thank you.
And Alex, what's going on in the wide world of science?
Yeah, what's going on?
All right, so...
Very peppy over there.
And I didn't have my tea this morning.
The caffeine infusions are just
No,
spreading.
I didn't have
Do
it this
tell,
morning.
Alex,
Come
do
on.
tell.
All right, first up, scientists reverse Alzheimer's disease in mice. What they were able to do is they took these mice and they were able to reduce, or they started to guess that part of what may be causing these amyloid depositions, which causes Alzheimer's disease, they suspect it is being caused by an enzyme called beta-secretase, which is an enzyme we all have. And as the brain aged, they were able to reduce it, or they bred mice that had it reduced. And later on, when they took mice and they gave them medication, the mice that they gave the medication to, as they reduced this enzyme, the depositions of the amyloids was going down. So they were able to reverse the
effects of
the effects of Alzheimer's.
So they're saying that this enzyme is key in
causing it. Now the challenge, of course, is the reason that enzyme is there is it helps brains develop when the being is young. So when you're growing up, you want that enzyme in your brain because it helps your brain grow during that time.
So when does it do the reverse? When does it start being detrimental to the brain?
That's the thing that they haven't got the exact handle on yet, because they're now guessing that it is part of that process, and by reducing it, they seem to have gotten the Alzheimer's cured in mice. The problem is that it's had mixed effects on humans, and they suspect that has to do with the timing. And if they start giving to you when you start showing symptoms of Alzheimer's, it's too late. So they have to give it earlier, but they don't know how much earlier, and it's going to vary a lot.
And how do you know somebody's going to contract, develop Alzheimer's?
That's the challenge.
I can talk.
Yeah, that's the challenge. Because you don't want to start giving a treatment for something you don't know if the person's going to suffer from it. And you don't know that they're suffering from it, but by the time you see the symptoms, it may be too late. So that's one of the challenges to this. The other thing is, too, just because it works on mice may not mean it'll work transfer to humans. Yeah. So it's a positive thing, but there's still more to go. But again, they are seeing this effect. The challenge is trying to get it to work to the next level where you can get it applied early enough that it works, but at a point where you know that that person needs that sort of treatment. Next story is about SpaceX and the launch they had this past week.
How's that car doing up in space? Do they know?
The car has been photographed by some amateur astronomers. So they've got it, and it's on its way to the asteroid belt.
Okay.
So past that, its batteries have run down, so it's not transmitting anymore, but it's on its way to the asteroid belt, and then it's going to go swinging back around to just inside of Earth's orbit, and then back out to the asteroid belt, because that's what its orbit is right now.
Did they have some sort of setup so that the battery would rejuvenate?
No.
It's going to come back with its wheels stripped and rims gone.
From those belters, if anybody's watching The Expanse.
Yeah, and not this story. So let me go redirect us back to what I was going to talk about. So they launched a satellite, and this time from the West Coast. Now, the main thing, the first primary thing that they did is they launched a satellite for the Spanish government, or for a Spanish commercial satellite company. And it's a Earth-observing satellite that they launched. But in addition to that, they had a secondary payload of some small satellites that SpaceX would like to get into orbit. And what these satellites are for being able to transmit internet from wherever. So you'll be able to get internet not just from your own home or for your Wi-Fi or from local Wi-Fi, but you'll be able to get it from satellite. So you may be able to get internet anywhere in the world. Now, at the moment, they're suspecting they're going to need about 4,000 of these satellites, and so these are just the first two of their experimental portion of this.
So they're going to be in a stationary orbit. No, they won't be in a stationary orbit.
4,000 satellites, it's going to be low Earth orbit. That's why they need 4,000, so that as they're whipping around in orbit, they'll be able to, you'll have a satellite nearby.
Right, but that satellite is going to be stationary in that.
No.
It's going to be moving around.
All over. Yeah, they're going to be buzzing around all over the place. Geosynchronous orbiter, which is quote-unquote stationary orbit, is 23,000 miles up. The vast majority of satellites that we have are about 100 to 200 miles up. And so that's where these satellites are going to be. And those things are going to be buzzing around, which is why they want 4,000, so there's enough coverage over the Earth. Because as these things are just orbiting around, there's going to be a satellite. Some satellite is going to be within reach.
Okay. And for one more question, just for comparison, airplanes fly at what altitude?
About 4 or 5 miles up.
Oh, okay. All right.
6, 7. Let's see here. 30,000 miles, 5,000. So it's about 6, 7 miles up.
Okay. So there's no chance that they're going to be impinging on each other.
The satellites are going to be not worried about, because you kind of have to have air so that they're not using a lot of rocket fuel to run into each other. But one of the other big thing about this is they tried to attempt to catch the fairings. Now, the fairings are the nose cone part of the rocket that surround the satellite. And you need it so that you can get the rocket above the atmosphere because you have to have aerodynamics and move the air around the satellite. But once you get out of the atmosphere, you want to get rid of the fairing because that is a lot of weight around the rocket. So as soon as it clears the atmosphere, you want the fairing to come off. Now, even though it's not that much of a piece of high technology compared to the rocket engines, it is still an expensive bit of the rocket. And so they were trying to recover it. And they built a ship with a giant net. And the giant net, they're trying to capture the two pieces of the fairing. They got one of them back. And unfortunately, it wasn't caught in the net. It was short by about 200 yards from the ship. But they were still able to recover one of the pieces. So they were trying
to swipe it out of the air as opposed to out of the water.
They were hoping to capture it on the boat before it hit the water because then you got to clean the water off of it.
Okay.
Because it's salt water, you got to clean salt water off, otherwise it starts to corrode the metal.
Okay.
So they're hoping to catch it without being in the water, but they weren't able to capture it, but they were able to pick it up. So they were able to recover it. And what they're hoping is that if they can get the fairings back, that will save 10% of the cost of the rocket launch, which is when you're talking about the hundreds of millions of dollars, that's a lot of money to try to recover from.
Yeah. So what happened to the second one? They don't know where it landed?
They weren't able to get the second half, but they got one half of it. So if they can get both halves, that's a pretty good savings. And if they can catch them and not have to clean the salt water off, that's even more savings.
Okay.
So that's it.
Okay. If you have any questions about these stories or any other science-related issues, feel free to call Alex right now at 203-837-9924.